you still have to have the same core techniques.
Correct.
Like that. Yeah. That's not going to change.
That's a great point, because actually for the first 10 years, Patty and I trained together. We did the same exercises. We got different results from it. Guys, gals, age ranges, and all that stuff. But you can't go wrong with doing basic movements correctly. I think one of the things we've been kind of talking a lot about here more recently is just the evolution of exercise compared to the evolution of who you are and your age. I don't train clients that are in their mid-50s, mid-60s, mid-70s like they were 15 or 25, right? Our bodies, when we're younger, it responds very well to more volume, more exercise. When we get a little older, you need more rest time. Our recovery just isn't there.
Yeah.
So you got to be smart about it.
Welcome back to the Lead Lamp Podcast. This is Brett Wiley, and we have Patty and Bryan Sibbach from Precision Training Concepts, Precision Wellness, and Perry Strength. So we actually were connected through you guys, I think through a couple people. So Sarah from Conhouse gave us your info, and then we have an insider here that was, I think you're working with Mary Kate, who both people have raved about everything you guys do for the community. So I'm excited to have you on and get talking. I am into my own, it's like side of fitness. I run a lot, so I don't know if there's anything we can go in some rabbit holes with that, but welcome to the show, and kind of give us a little bit of a background of just how you guys got started in the area and like, you know, what you offer to Central PA.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. I'm actually a Harrisburg native.
Okay.
So grew up on a farm in the Lingelstown area and knew I had to get off of that farm somehow. And I had older brothers who were always outside involved in athletics and sports. And through them, they always take the praise that that's the way I got to college on an athletic scholarship. Always loved sports, always loved fitness as a young girl. Came back to the Harrisburg area after college and raised my family and coached. I was one of the few female coaches in the local Lower Paxton area, as well as in the Central Dauphin School District, basketball, track.
It's a little bit of everything.
Oh yeah, I loved it all. I loved just trying to teach young kids to, at a young age, be the healthiest versions of themselves. And then in my professional career, I was in pharmaceuticals, so I was very involved in women's health there, as well as cardiovascular health.
Okay.
And the last 10 years that I was in pharmaceuticals, I was actually in diabetes health, launched the semaglutide molecule, better known as Ozempic, in central Pennsylvania, and was able to really pivot because of what Bryan and I had accomplished together in the personal training and the fitness world. Back in about 2022, I went full-time into the business with him.
Okay.
She wanted a better employer. Let's just say it that way. So I'm not from Harrisburg.
Okay.
I grew up in the Allentown area and had an older brother who was an avid exerciser. I started working out when I was 13. I was very, very lucky to be through my middle school and high school career. Powerlifting coaches and like world champion Olympic lifters that actually came to our high school. So to kind of put it into perspective, it would be kind of like having Michael Jordan come to your high school, play on your court, and show you how to shoot. That was me in Olympic lifting and powerlifting. So it was always based on technique, and that has just always resonated with me in my 40 plus years of doing it, but when you're instructing and helping others. So quick sidebar, both Patty and I went to the same college, the same years. We both were always in the gym, never crossed paths ever, right? Two different lives. 25 years later, oddly enough, we met in the gym. And one of the guys that I knew from the gym, she knew because he was a pharmaceutical rep, kind of started putting the bug in her ear, boy, you should do a show. She was in great shape, very athletic. He said, you know, and he's a national competitor and a judge, and had said, you know, I'll do your tanning, or not tanning, your posing and nutrition, but you need this guy to train you. So that's kind of how we met.
That guy.
A little bit different look at that point. Again, this is many years ago, but we both started to see that there was a resounding theme. Didn't matter what gym, how old, guy, gal, whatever, that people were always just doing their exercises a little bit wrong. Some to the point, she would say, is he going to get hurt? Probably. We should go tell him, well, this isn't my place.
Yeah.
So we got our own place. And then what started off as just one-on-one training, this is back in 2010, 2011. It was just me. And over the years, we've had, a couple dozen trainers and 2 locations, and just everything has just blossomed since.
And I think dovetailing on what Bryan said, it would break my heart to see individuals in the gym spending hours away from their family, away from, doing what really they wanted to do, knowing that they wanted to get to be a healthier version of themselves, and they were doing it incorrectly.
Then they get hurt.
They get hurt, and then, they just give up because they're not seeing the results that they want.
And then it exacerbates whatever that problem was that they originally went into, whether it's lose a little bit of weight, gain some self-confidence, or whatever it is. Sometimes they go hand in hand.
Right.
But then now that compounds because you're like, well, it hurts to work out now, and I'm not going to go do that because I can't now. It hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
You're exactly
pain
right.
is a crazy motivator one way or the other.
Yeah.
People are not going to exercise if it hurts.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't. So what happens? They become more sedentary. They gain more weight. They're burning less calories. They're kind of a little state of depression at times. So they eat even more poor.
Yeah.
And now we're going the wrong way.
Yeah, it snowballs.
Right. So when we based our precision training concepts, our one-on-one studios, on trying to ensure that the movements were done correctly and safely to maximize the results that a current client would want and reduce a risk for injury. The risk is always going to be there, but if you can reduce that risk as much as possible by doing the movement correctly, we're on the right track.
Right.
Awesome. And it's not, you're not doing anything wrong by teaching the proper technique anyways. It might not, my goals might not be the same as Joe's goals, but at the end of the day, like, well, if Joe's looking to add a bunch of, muscle mass and look different, but I'm just looking to shed a couple pounds, you still have to have the same core techniques.
Correct.
Like that, that's not going to change.
That's a great point, because actually for the first 10 years, Patty and I trained together. We did the same exercises. We got different results from it. Guys, gals, age ranges and all that stuff. But you can't go wrong with doing basic movements correctly. I think one of the things we've been kind of talking a lot about here more recently is just the evolution of exercise compared to the evolution of who you are and your age. I don't train clients that are in their mid-50s, mid-60s, mid-70s like they were 15 or 25, right? Our bodies, when we're younger, it responds very well to more volume, more exercise. When we get a little older, you need more rest time. Our recovery just isn't there.
Yeah.
So you got to be smart about
A
it.
younger body is going to be a little bit more forgiving to some mistakes too. So that's why those guys that are doing, or people that are doing it incorrectly when they're younger, you have more time to learn that that's not the right way you should do it. Now, when you're dealing with a client that's a different age, a little older age bracket, obviously those mistakes probably pop up a lot
Almost
quicker.
immediately.
Yeah.
You'll know it.
Yeah. Now, let's kind of get into that too. Like it seems like a lot of your messaging online and what you have displayed throughout your brand is not just like, this isn't just like a gym to go power lift and grunt. And it's not that. Like, you have a whole wide range of clients. You have probably a lot of people that are younger, my age, seniors looking for different goals, whether they're just trying to stay active, build some muscle mass or whatever. So how do you approach trying to get those different clients in? Because you're not trying to keep it just one age group or just looking for people who are just powerlifting.
Our youngest training client is 9 and our oldest member is 95.
Okay.
So it is not a one size fits all type of business. And everybody's fitness journey is different. So I think to answer that question, you base your business and our expertise on credibility, meaning the years that we've been in business, our backgrounds.
Yeah, your expertise.
Right. Our professionalism. Knowing that it's not, like Bryan will say, any of our trainers are not going to do the exact same movements with every single client that we have.
Yeah.
It's very different. It's very customized and very personalized.
And some of your trainers probably aren't fit for certain clients. Like it's just, you just know they're going to push someone different or whatever.
We left our West Shore studio, and our one trainer, who he himself is in his 60s, was training a retired physician in his 70s. So we call him our senior specialist, right?
Yeah, but it's an easy bridge to gap. The toughest thing, especially if you're new to the industry, if you're a younger trainer training somebody that's maybe your grandfather's age, there's a disconnect almost right out of the gate. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're really young and you're training somebody much older, you want to be motivating, but you have to be smart in how you're motivating and what you're motivating them to do. Is it realistic? Is it going to get them where they want to go? I think what's really important when I always sit down with every client before they come through the door, and we go over injury history, medical history, not only their goals, but I'm a very visual trainer. I mean, I've been doing this for so long, I can kind of look at people and you see if they have narrow shoulders, wider hips, thick or thin wrist, thick or thin skin. You know what type of workout's going to work. It's not like, here's a piece of paper, just go do these 10 exercises. Let me know if you have any questions.
Here, go do the circuit.
It is not, as Patty said, it's not a one size fits all.
We're anti-circuit.
Yeah, I figured you would. That's why I had to say it.
You just have to be kind of really smart about it. But all across the board, from early age, single digits, through 80s and 90s, a lot of the basic movements still apply. We're still going to be standing and sitting and standing. So it is a squatting type movement.
It's the same mechanics.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Biomechanics. But do you need to do it with weight on your shoulders, putting pressure on your low back, your neck? Not if you're 85 years old, right? So you could do just some body weight things that are just as effective. So it's just important to...
You always say bands are beautiful now, right?
Yeah, because the tension is constant. We do a lot with the exercise bands just because, for that reason, the tension goes from it's a lot to a whole lot, and it never releases. Right. And most people don't know how to use bands correctly. They're used to the weights where it's just that no tension, here's the tension in the middle.
I feel
very different.
I feel like the bands is a much newer in the scheme of like just things you see and work out now. Like even when I was younger, I remember the first time I even remember bands, and this is probably, you might laugh at this, but like I remember my mom having a set of them for like her aerobics VHS tapes. And that was the first time I ever really saw bands in like fitness. But now you're seeing them used like way differently, and they're not just like the old like big thick rubber band thing. They've got the tubes now that are it's way different than it was.
And they're great because you can take them anywhere with you if you travel.
The bag doesn't weigh a couple 100 pounds, and for all the weight, you got 5-pound bag at the most.
Right. So when we go out and we do corporate wellness or fitness events, we'll bring bands because it's something that first of all, it's not intimidating an individual as well. And then once we instruct and once we show, they're like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. And they usually complain, but they're like, I didn't know it would hurt as much as it does with a band.
We call hurt not hurt. It's effective.
Oh, yeah.
That's all.
It's not pain. It's effectiveness.
Right. I mean, in a perfect world, you want to be able to utilize free weights because your body has to adapt to the weight. Machines are great, but you have to know how to position your body in the machine. If the seat's too high, you might be jamming your shoulders or your knees or hips. But it's good to know and utilize bands, medicine balls, TRX, stability balls, free weights, machines. Use everything. Yeah. And the thing is, it's not like if you do similar movements day in and day out that, you're going to plateau. You don't need 5 new exercises every day. There's a reason why certain movements have been around for 100,
push-up
150.
Has been around forever.
Because they work. That's why. You don't have to like reinvent cooking pasta. You boil the water, you put the pasta in. You have to do it every time. They've been doing that 200 years ago. They're doing it now.
Yeah. It's very true. It's very
But I'm
true.
sure with any kind of exercises, just plain body weight exercises, like you were saying, if you're in a situation where you can only do them to start in your house and you need to work up to that, like before you go into a gym, and you can just squeeze out a few push-ups, some sit-ups, squats or wall sit, like those are the most basic things to get people moving and doing a little bit of exercise. But like you said, like they're hard to get wrong. You know if you're doing them wrong, and you're not going to get hurt by doing something improperly on a machine. but they're very basic. It's like the wheel. Why are you reinventing the wheel?
It's great statement. And a lot of times, again, as we age, I can tell you just from the clients that have come through the door, generally speaking, the older the client, the longer the laundry list of injuries or whatever, shoulders, knees, hips, what have you.
More life has happened.
Correct.
Right.
So those body weight movements are doable without any pain or substantially less pain than grabbing a set of dumbbells or sitting at a bench or whatever. So you just have to adapt. This is always kind of a funny side note. Women are generally, we do about 65% training with women first. Women generally listen much more than we do. I'll be the first to admit.
No,
a lot of
never.
Say it louder.
Yeah.
Say it. But in all honesty,
Blasphemy.
most of the guys, especially if they played sports in high school or college, back when I played football, we benched, we did leg press, we did power cleans. Now they're 40 years older, everything's ruined, and all they do is golf. No disrespect
Their
to the
knees are
golfers.
shot, their backs are shot.
So they do it one or two times, and generally they do it how they did it 30, 40 years ago, which usually was wrong. And they're 2 weeks in, they're like, this is stupid. Because they're not doing it right, because they're getting injured.
Right.
Gerald, we've seen it over and over, thousands of clients.
When there's a difference between like waking up the next morning a little sore versus like, I cannot move my hip.
Right.
Because of whatever.
This is bad.
Right.
Call the doctor. kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Huh. Okay. So let's kind of go into like the mission of what you guys have. I know you have a couple different locations. Obviously, you're in Perry, West Shore, and East Shore, and then you have some wellness aspects of it too. So kind of go into like the core mission, the core offering of what you do as a whole.
Sure, I can kind of talk to that.
Yeah.
So we started with our first brick and mortar back in Harrisburg. And
That was
precision
that
training.
was the training.
concepts.
Okay.
That's one-on-one personal training.
Okay.
And we had a lot of clients who were coming from the West Shore, Mechanicsburg area and said, boy, you guys should really expand onto
It's
the
that
West
river,
Shore.
man.
I know.
It's that river.
It's like the Nile, isn't it?
You would think it's like a pit that you can't just fall into it.
Right. So we took that jump and we did open up a second brick and mortar location on the West Shore. We're now located off of 114 in Mechanicsburg. That's our second location as far as our personal training. Since then, we have become the personal training partners with Capital Blue Cross. So anybody that has the Capital Blue Cross insurance can take advantage of 3 free personal training sessions.
And that's across all Capital Blue
correct
plans. Wow. Okay.
Right. Medicare as well as employer group based.
That's awesome.
So we do that out of their Capital Connect store. And when COVID hit, we got out of Dodge and moved up to Perry County, just over Sterrett's Gap. And when we moved up there, Brian was the first one that said, man, there's no fitness center up here for anybody.
I did not think about that until I was doing my homework on you guys. And I was like, you know what? Like,
yeah.
there's nothing up there.
Right.
As far as that. Like,
however, it was a leap of faith because number one, it was COVID. Number two, fitness centers have one of the highest fail rates in businesses. And we weren't originally from that area. So that county needed to accept us and not only accept us for who we were, but to invest in our business and their health. And they did. And we were so blessed. And we've really just, oh my goodness, we have just a community that's behind us in so many ways with their health and wellness. And knowing from my background in pharmaceuticals, I knew what those A1C levels were up there and they needed to get moving a little bit.
Yeah.
And with that and with all of our businesses, it's very educationally focused. So with even a membership base up at Perry Strength, we made sure that people had the ability to learn how to use the equipment, complimentary, and if they
that's
have
part of the
questions-
membership.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Because education is power. And if people know how to do something, more likely they're going to do it again with confidence.
And you're building value with your gym there.
Right.
And they're going to feel more comfortable coming back to the place where they felt most comfortable.
Exactly. So we did expand once we saw with our training studios that people started to really feel good about the way they were looking. Again, because of my background, we expanded into the health and beauty area. So we provide facials, massage, Botox, neurotoxins, derma fillers, all of the little things that make individuals want to feel the very best version of themselves. And that's really taken off. And again, that's very educationally focused as well, because we get a lot of individuals that they don't even know where to begin with that.
Yeah.
So we're not pushy, and ask questions, and we'll educate.
Okay.
So
I could add one thing.
we always do.
I know. My wife always said, we do the right things. We always want to do the right things for the right reason.
Yeah.
So any of the gyms I grew up in, I'm going back many a year, when people come in, it's easy to get people to join your place.
Usually people are excited to start a gym.
It's keeping them. I don't know if you know, but January was like 9th or 11th is National Quitters Day. There's actually a day for that. Anybody in the fitness center world, January got this, it's new year, new me, gyms are flooded. I thought it was more towards the end of February, but I guess the numbers are showing like the first 2 weeks, most people are like, oh my gosh, this actually, I have to sweat a little bit and do something. So they quit. So I kind of take it upon myself, just speaking in reference to the fitness center up in Shermansdale. If a member comes in, we're open arms. We want to know husband's name, the kids, it's all family.
Right.
We got about 1,000 family members up there out of that place.
That's good.
But when people come in, I always found it interesting. The first few days that we were open and we're bringing in members when we first started, you'd ask people, where do you live and how close are you and so forth. When was the last time you worked out? They'd said, well, when the gym was here before. And I said, well, they left in 1992. Yep, that was the last time we're talking 30 years, right? So the one thing about Perry, it's very much a bedroom county.
Yeah.
Everybody leaves to go work Carlisle, East Shore, West Shore, and they come back up. There's not a ton of healthy eating places. There was next to no fitness anywhere. Right. So we really wanted to take that to a whole other level. We've been involved with every elementary school. We've always done like these complimentary 4, 5, 6 hour with about 500 kids.
Wow.
Which is exhausting, but it's so fun.
That's a lot of energy there.
And you see, if you kind of start in the beginning, we have a very thriving silver sneakers community. About a quarter of our membership is over 65.
Wow.
The oldest member just passed away at 97 years old. And no air tank or anything, crutches. She walked in with her 2 early 70s daughters. And they worked out together. It was the coolest thing.
That's awesome, yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that she's no longer around, but to be at 97 and walking in on your own, probably doing some minimal things, treadmill walking, things like that, elliptical, but like that's awesome.
We share exercises.
I aspire to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to have. We always want to have that vibe, whether it's myself or Patty or some of the other trainers up there. Not everybody knows how to do stuff. When you look at the machines, it kind of
intimidating.
Has a little bit of a picture, right? So take 5-10 seconds to say, hey, can I show you? Oh, they're very open for help and suggestions. So the nice thing is the other members who are very savvy with exercise, now they're taking it upon themselves. If they see one of the younger kids or an older woman or whatever training incorrectly, they'll come over and help. So it's a very hands helping hands type of thing.
It boils down to one word, respect, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all coming from different backgrounds. Some may have several years of fitness under their belt. Others may have 0. But you can respect one another for where they're at and help and encourage one another.
It sounds like you do a good job at conveying that with your members based on what Brian just said. Like your members are actually helping other members when the trainer's not available or gym, the employee's not there to teach them or correct them. It's cool that you're like, you have a member of the gym who's just a customer is like, hey, do you mind if I show you how to do that real quick? Because that looks like you're going to get in, like whatever the situation is.
Right. And
that's awesome.
I attribute that to him because it comes from the top, right? And it rolls down from there, which is awesome.
You're almost, you're training your client to treat the people that way you want your employees to treat the clients.
Right. You train your trainers,
cool
you train your members, you train your clients.
And you're going to attract a certain type of client when you have a place like that, that A, is going to attract more people like that. And B, I'm sure it's business, so you're going to get people that don't fit that, and they probably weed themselves out pretty quick too, because they just don't fit what the mission is of that business.
And what better compliment than a recommendation from either a member or a client?
Yeah.
So,
especially up there in Perry County, it's probably a pretty good word of mouth. For new clients, like, oh no, well, I heard so and so comes here, so
they have to like you before they're going to buy from you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful county, it's a beautiful area, but it's just way different than Cumberland County. And like you were saying, starting a business up there when you're used to business down here it's very different.
It's very different, right? Yeah. And you have to be able to identify the difference with your customer too, and be able to mold and to communicate effectively.
Yeah,
with that type of client, even from Harrisburg to Mechanicsburg to Perry County, 3 very different regions, very different type of clients.
Very close together,
right?
But you're not getting. It's not like the DC metro area where like it's a big sprawling neighborhood essentially.
Right.
Not much difference in variation, but our area, it's like a whole bunch of different ecosystems and communities in a 50-mile circle.
It's very true. I was just thinking about this. I still remember shortly after we opened up at the fitness center, you would see people coming in, they're signing up for a membership, and then you have an existing member come in and checking in. They're like, oh, hey, how you doing? So members know the members.
Yeah.
And it was very community-based. And just as we were sitting here, I'm thinking, our Lingelstown studio and our West Shore studio, people know one another there too. So I'm going to say it's the vibe that we're emitting or broadcasting, if you will, because we see a lot of the same circles of clients, whether they're neighbors, same communities, same clubs they belong to, whatever. But it's very rare that there's 2 clients in at the same time that don't know each other, not only from training, but outside too, which is pretty cool.
That is awesome. I mean, that's great. And you can trust your clients to just, they're going to do the right thing when they're there too. The one thing I think that's also very cool is, and you explained it about the little picture on the machine. Like, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I have the, don't get mad at me. But I have the perpetual $9.99 a month Planet Fitness membership
that's fine.
I only use in the winter, maybe, but, cause I'm outside, I do a lot of, my type of workout is I do a lot of trail running. So I'm outside in the woods from spring to fall. But then in the winter, I go in and I do my workouts in the gym. But back on track. That was a rabbit hole. Back on track. The machine, like the pictures on the machines, like when you go into a gym that's maybe, we won't use brand names, but we'll say a little bit more commercial.
Right.
And maybe the staff there isn't as attuned or knowledgeable, and they're younger, they're high school, college age kid, and they're just kind of there doing their time. That's a way different experience than what you guys are putting together.
Right.
And you've done a great job of being attentive to that and saying like, this is my brand. Like you can't be slacking. You got to be paying attention, I'm sure. And you got to know the client.
What's kind of interesting too, the whole deal with fitness, it has to be convenient. It really does. The difference of 5 minutes and 30 is
eternity.
Correct. People they're going to eat 5 minutes and 10 minutes might not do it. Every gym, big or small, they have their own business model.
Right.
The Planet Fitnesses, it's a great value. So people, and they're all over. It's a great value. As long as you are relatively knowledgeable or you can kind of follow some pictures, most times you're going to get a good workout.
Yeah.
No problem. You get into some of the little more bigger corporate, like massive places.
Right. We know the names. Yeah.
Right. And it's a broader audience. They want the bigger lifters. They have the heavier weights and they're churning them.
Right.
There's a time and a place for that.
Right.
We've worked out at every one of them. And you could put me in wherever. I'll get a great workout. I don't care what place it is. I've always, very near and dear to my heart, I've always enjoyed the small guys place.
Right.
There's some local places on East and West Shore. I have the utmost respect for how they conduct business because it's very similar to how we do. They're doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
They love exercise. They want to make sure people are doing it safely, and they're getting community involvement. It's kind of like it's a win-win all around.
And they're building their own community.
Right. Yeah. It's not like this is better than that. There's hundreds of thousands of people in Central PA. There's plenty to go around.
That's like our parent company is a dental group.
Right.
And, there's a lot of teeth. So like, we can't see we'd love to see everyone's teeth, but there's a lot of teeth. So it's a similar thing. Like there's a lot of people working out. there is a max threshold of what you can handle.
Right.
So send them to some other great gyms. There are some great local gyms in the area. I'm sure that you're friends
absolutely.
with too.
Right.
So,
Especially
good
with the model
competition.
that we have too, right?
Yeah.
Because we have this one-on-one, so we can have multiple trainers working out with our clients. But then you have the fishbowl effect. You can only have it so big because you still want to have that boutique.
There's a
personalized-
threshold.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what do? Do you open up another location, right? Or do you just say, okay, that's it? And
What's what is the saturation of
Right.
that then? Like
Right.
you can keep expanding, but then there's also a ceiling of like, well,
right.
I know I'm not going to fill it after I get to a certain point.
Right.
So,
And we're very picky about who we want associated with us as far as our trainers. So, we interview, we feel, okay, going back to what we were earlier saying, what type of client would they be best with the skill set that they have? And, so it's constant. It's constant really trying to find those individuals that believe in our mission and want to do the right thing for the right reasons.
yeah. Yeah. You're on your About Us, when you can meet the team, like
Right.
a lot of the people you have on there are just very, very long resumes on their own. Like a lot of them are, former military, and they've gotten experience with, training with that. And now they're certified in this list of other things that I can't memorize to rattle off, but like there's some impressive backgrounds on there for some of your trainers, and even just seeing their photos, like you can tell they're friendly. Like they got big smiles. The way you guys pose them, it looks great. And that's just my marketing brain. I'm like, hey, I could probably work out with them. They look friendly.
Right.
But it's warming. It's not as doesn't feel cold.
We're definitely not the no pain, no gain mentality.
Gotcha.
Because that individual will not stay. And most likely the client will not stay if they're hurting after the first session.
Yeah.
Because what do we want to do? We want those individuals to go down that fitness journey and keep going and keep getting healthier. And if you're trying to kill them on their first workout, that's not.
All right. We're going to see where you break today.
That's not going to end well.
No. Now, let's kind of go into let's take a turn. Okay. You have the Giving Wellness information on your page, and we were introduced to a little bit. So kind of explain how you guys are also involving yourself in the community, maybe outside of just being in the gym, whether it's through Giving Wellness or doing you were coming from a corporate thing today, so you do some outreach into some businesses as well. Kind of, explain how you do things outside of the gym that benefit Central PA as well.
I'll start and then you pick up. Okay. So Brian and I are both big believers that everyone has gifts. You're given gifts in life, and our gifts just happen to be lifting things up and putting them down and be able to communicate that effectively to an individual. So we love fitness. And when we go out into the community, we're asked to speak a lot. We don't even say exercise anymore, because even that can be intimidating to individuals.
It's so broad too.
Right. We say movement. Find a movement that you enjoy doing and keep doing it. You had said you like to run trails. That's awesome. That's your movement, right? So we have been volunteers with Salvation Army for many years. We go in and we have taught the kids and have done classes there. We go into the elementary schools, like Brian said, up into Perry County, where it's very underserved up there. And then we are very involved with the Midwest Food Bank.
Okay.
And we were able to establish the program Giving Wellness, which is an online healthy habits challenge. Basic healthy habits that you can perform on a daily basis where you accumulate points, right? We do the fitness videos for it, and then we partner with a board-certified health coach, and she does the nutrition component of it. So when a person signs up for it, it's an 8-week program, right, online. They see our videos weekly. We give Motivational Monday messages. We give our Wellness Wednesday tip. We give our Fit Tip Friday, in addition to the exercises that we do. Long story short, there's a 20% give back to the Midwest Food Bank of Pennsylvania to help feed kids for the weekend that would unlikely have food for the weekend.
Gotcha.
So it's just a win-win-win all the way around. Individuals that are in the program.
So I sign up for the program.
You sign up for the program. You're going to hear Brian and I give you fitness video tips for 8 weeks. You're going to be working with a health coach, and 20% of your application or the fee will go back to the Midwest Food Bank of Pennsylvania.
To feed kids.
Correct.
That are under.
Every
Correct.
person that signs up, it feeds 11 kids for a
wow.
weekend.
Right.
So it's pretty
Okay.
substantial. They know how to really stretch a dollar.
Yeah.
So what's also awesome is that a lot of corporations are now embarking on this giving wellness because they're looking for ways to engage with their employees, right? They're looking for their employees to be happier, healthier, less medical claims.
they feel better at
Right.
work. Yeah.
Right.
More
Plus,
productive.
there's a give back
Yeah.
to the community. So it's really taken
That's-
off. We had our launch at the Capitol this past September.
Okay.
And it's just taken off. So we're working right now with about 2 or 3 different corporations for the online. And then we also do in-person corporate
Gotcha.
wellness where you can speak to that.
So one of the things that both of us actually had many years in corporate, okay, the old suit and tie, and a lot of the places had in-house fitness centers. Do you ever go to some place that has a fitness center in their work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is anyone ever in there?
No.
Exactly. That's always the problem. So
There's like
some-
one guy that's just growling it out.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's it.
We've been in some that had 1,000 employees, and you'd see the same 10
Maybe
very
6.
very avid exerciser people that took advantage of it. Hey, it's right here in my work, as opposed to going to one of the local fitness
I
centers.
would equate it to, and this isn't a knock on any business that has a fitness center, but they always looked as dead as the hotel gym. Like it's like the same level
Right.
of like use.
Yeah.
In theory, corporate wellness or having a fitness center on site is exactly that. They're trying to engage their staff, their employees, to go exercise, because when you exercise, it releases endorphins, you feel better. There's the science behind
Yeah.
it, right? For the company, they have more productive employees. They're lower. There's been a huge spike in depression post-COVID. You know, people are at home and they gained weight and all that stuff. So the win for the companies are that, like Patty mentioned, you have happier, healthier, more productive, better bonding, just more cohesion within the workforce. The problem is no one's using the gyms. So we started through our just connections over the years and being in business. We would do seminars within the fitness centers to show people how to use the stuff in their fitness center.
That they paid, that their business
Right.
paid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you would think that, well, kind of a sidebar. Most people, the reason they said they didn't do it,
They didn't know how.
well, number one, they didn't know how, but the other thing was I punch in at 8:30 or I start at 8:30 and I leave at 4:30. I've got to drop my son at the daycare or I drop my daughter here. They don't have time to work out before they work. Most gals, you know, it's going to be a lot more challenging for a woman to bring all her stuff to get changed and showered and makeup and hair and all that. And I totally get it. So what about after work? Well, same thing. I got to
pick the
pick
kids
up.
Right. I want out of here.
Most
right?
people, you're going to check in at 8:29 and you're going to leave at 4:31. They're just not going to stay at work. That's just been my experience for many years. People want to leave. How about over lunch? They don't want to see the same people that they're upstairs with
Right.
now in spandex and a t-shirt. Now they're sweating. They're
Right.
either going to and then go back to work, or they're going to take the time to shower. It's almost too inconvenient. So it's never really, really panned out. You get a real small group of people that are going to do it.
Yeah.
So some of the different corporate places, the one I came from right before here, they've got a nice facility. They just need direction. So I go over there 3 times a week, different times of the day, instruct. Classes might be 3, it might be 7, but they're learning. So it's not everybody comes in all 3 times.
Right.
It's usually one group Monday, separate group, so forth. But now they're learning enough to come in a second and third on their own.
So long story short, we've seen growth
Yeah.
with those. If companies realize that what we provide is going to educate their employees to continue to want to do something because they now know how to do it, it's quite a payoff for the employer groups. And that's what we do as we go in, whether they have an in-house fitness facility or not.
Right.
We'll go in and just give seminars on teaching correct movement. Back to the bands. Bands are great.
Yeah.
Right? And we can give them out. We can answer questions. There's a lot of general just questions that people still are afraid to ask about fitness or nutrition that we're able to just help.
Yeah, I think if you're approaching it the way it sounds like you guys are, you're kind of bringing that wall down of like, well, I'm afraid to ask. Like, I don't want to be judged, or I don't want to look like a fool. So it seems like you guys are going in and a more interactive way of just, hey, let's just talk about it. And then by that point, I'm sure you see it where they start to warm up to you. They start to ask some questions. They get curious, and they're like, well, they're not going to judge me. Like, they're here to help.
Right.
But there is that, I'm sure you experience that, where they're like, when you go in and it's just like wall goes up, and people,
It is.
You need to kind of soften them to.
It's not until we start presenting that they realize, oh, they're not meatheads.
Yeah.
Oh, they have this background. Oh, they're 30 years in corporate.
Yeah. I have this, I don't know why, I just had this funny like vision in my head. Like there's probably this stigma or this perception of before you guys even come in, like if they don't do any research on you, where they're like, oh boy, these guys are going to come in, they're wearing their like spandex workout gear.
Blowing a whistle.
Oh, let's go. Yeah. Like they just like a,
you're going to have your jug of water.
Yeah.
Jug of water.
Like, sweatband on your head,
Right. And we can show you pictures from the day where we probably were, but
they envision, maybe not that extreme, but they envision like these super, in your face, like health nuts lifting, power lifters.
Not encouraging, just like pointing at you, right?
But then you start talking to them, and it's like it breaks down those barriers, which is a huge way to just get people who are uncomfortable with beginning to just exercise or just beginning to change their eating habits. And it's a big change.
Right. Our Healthy Habits program online, some of the habits, and I don't want to give them all away but are you getting enough water in? What time of day are you done eating?
Simple things.
Right? How many fruits are you getting in a day? How many veggies? I mean, if you start documenting that, that's a win.
I don't want
if you went from 1 to 2, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's a small change, but it makes a big impact.
And actually, a lot of the people that are doing that, the Giving Wellness Challenge, they're not avid exercisers. Mm-hmm. They're not the greatest as far as nutrition. They're generally the ones this year, this is it. And about March, February, they up, down, up, down. Right.
Oh my goodness. We do videos on just how to sit in a chair correctly. Mm-hmm. What's your posture like? Because your posture is so important to everything. Mm-hmm. Usually when we say that, someone will...
I feel very uncomfortable right now. You're judging me? No, we have a couple groups. We have a couple practices within our group here that are like jaw. It's called oromyofunctional facial therapy. Yeah. But they deal with like neck, facial muscles, jaw, how you're talking and eating, and like your tongue movements. Sure. Okay. And like when you're around them, you're just like, I don't know.
Oh, because you feel right.
Yeah, so no, we're used to that. We're used to it.
Brian calls them the desktop athletes.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, I use an analogy for a car. I'm kind of a car guy too. So if you have a car that's really souped up, it's really fast, you're pretty close to the pinnacle. You're not going to go that much faster. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you take a car that's got some decent, got nice tires, whatever. It's got a V8, but nothing's been done to it. That's kind of like
stock.
Stock. Thank you. So that's kind of like the desktop athlete. So if you have somebody that is a high performer, they're training 5 days a week, they eat super clean, they're pretty much at their pinnacle.
Yeah.
And to go this far, they've got to do a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
So here's the funny thing with the people who are very inactive and they don't eat well, they drop and lose weight so quickly because their body's not used to doing it. So when they do basic stuff, drink more water,
it's like
eat a little cleaner,
a shock to the system.
And just walk. Oh, I dropped 15 pounds. You don't say.
I don't want to tie this into my running, but it's very similar. Hopefully this is a good analogy of it, but I equate that to like these guys will get a good kick out of it too. But like if you're running your first 5K and you're going from your first one you ever did, maybe it was 40 minutes and you walked it and whatever. And then the next time you trained for the next one, you drop 10 minutes. Like that is huge. Yeah. 10 minutes. Then you drop the next one, you're 25. But as you get closer to whatever that next mark is, so like sub 20, if you're doing a sub 20, sub 18, sub 17, just to get 5 extra seconds takes all year worth of dedication to drop 20 seconds on your PR time versus.
There's a reason that 4-minute mile stuck for as long as it did.
Yeah.
Right. But going from 7, you're going 30 seconds, a minute.
But it's similar to what you're saying though, like that in the beginning, little changes make a big impact, and they don't have to be massive. Like you don't need to be lifting and doing all your PRs and benching crazy amounts. Like
the
just
funny
little
thing,
things.
everybody thinks, how often you go into the gym? Oh, I see you're down like 20 pounds. You go to the gym every day. No,
you don't have to go to the gym.
I walk outside.
Yeah. Take the dog for a walk.
Right.
The dog will like it and you'll like it.
Movement.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully that same person, kind of like your analogy with running that 5K, the weight starts to slow down as it comes off.
The curve goes like that.
Right. Now you have to eat even cleaner. Maybe the exercise needs to be a little longer, a little harder, a little more intense. But you should still, until your next plateau. So in the very beginning with like the desktop athletes, as long as they stay focused, and I think that's half, if not the majority of the hurdle for most is keeping people focused on the prize at the end. And guess what? When you get there, the race isn't over. You're still living.
Another goal.
The race just continues forever.
That's
very true.
With anything in wellness and fitness, once you've hit a goal, you're already thinking like, well, I'm going to do that now. And I want to do that. And you might not even know what that is, that 5 goals down the road is right now. But you guys probably see it too, where like people get there and they're like, well, no, I want to push a little more. Or I want to try this now.
We try to make sure that they have realistic goals initially so that they can hit that goal. It's like a staircase.
Steer someone like that. So I'm sure you've seen it where someone will come in and they're like, this is extreme. I want to drop whatever, some kind of extreme amount of weight, or I really want to push to do something just very outlandish. And how do you take that and go, well, that's great. Like, let's start here.
Right.
How do you steer them into a plan where it's a little bit more practical?
I kind of like exactly the way you did it. I'll give you a perfect example. This is a few years ago. Had a client who's been training with us for years, early 60s. And she says, I want to get back to my high school weight. Now, this is 4 children ago.
40 years and
chemo, all kinds of health issues. And I said, why do you want to be your high school weight? It was stuck in her craw that she thought, if I get to that weight, I'm healthy. And I've known her for a while. I said, I'll tell you what, I think that's kind of an unrealistic goal. Why don't we look kind of like what you were saying? Because what happens a lot of times with women, as they're losing, they want to lose the number on the scale. I want to lose the body fat percentage on the scale. Most people, when they come in and say, I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to drop 20 pounds on the scale. What that tells me is I need to lose body fat. They don't like the way they look. We have a ton of women that come in, the scale doesn't budge, but body fat goes down and the muscle goes up. Their shape changes, they look differently, clothes fit differently, everybody knows it, but they're still the same weight.
It's a dramatic change.
Right.
Just not where they thought it was going to be.
Correct.
But they probably feel amazing. They feel way better. It's just not what they originally expected.
Right.
I think that it kind of comes, what it boils down to it's an emotional conversation. So you got to be very, very cautious of not, you are way out of whack. You are never going to, because they're going to be like, you know what,
I'm going to the other gym.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. So there's a professional, but an honest way.
And we do talk about that. It is not just the number on the scale. It is muscle versus fat. And you always do a nice job of explaining the difference with that.
Well, I mean, if you look at a 5-pound blob of body fat, you can see it. It's very gelatinous. It's very porous. It's jello-y.
Yeah.
You look at 5 pounds of muscle, it's smaller. It's more dense. It's very sinewy, but it's solid. It incorporates less mass, but it's the same weight.
Right.
But 100 pounds of fat and 100 pounds of muscle, it's about half the size and circumference and mass, but it looks a heck of a lot better.
And we have to educate
the muscle.
the clients on the fat doesn't turn into muscle.
Right. I've heard that though. Like there's some, maybe that I've heard that. I know I've heard like, oh, well, body fat turns into muscle if you lift or if you work out. That like, I'm not crazy though. I've heard that around somewhere. I know I have.
Yeah. So think about there are two different mechanisms, not to get too scientific, but you're going to burn calories / body fat.
Right.
You literally eviscerate that off your body. The more muscle your body holds, the more energy or calories it's going to burn to maintain muscle.
Right.
Okay. That's why there's always such a big push. You need to work out. The more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn.
Resistance training, you mean?
Correct. Not getting on and sprinting or anything like that. That'll definitely be great, a good calorie burn, but you're burning fat and you're building muscle. It's two very different things. A lot of times you'll hear people say, well, I need to get in shape before I come see you. Like before a train, which
we hear that all the time.
Is a little weird. It's not why you're coming to see me.
Yeah, right.
So
you should start with that.
Well, I want to lose the weight first, and then I'm going to build the muscle. The nice thing is you can do it
simultaneously.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a little bit of resistance training, movements, cardiovascular training, and tweak your nutrition.
So I hear you run. Are you doing resistance training though?
So I do very little. I probably should do a lot more. Most of what I do is just body weight stuff.
Okay.
Like I get down on the mat in my basement and do some planks or crunches or push-ups.
That's good.
But I don't have like, I would rather just, this is probably terrible. You're cringing at this right now, but I would rather just get out and just hammer out run after run after run. And I don't do a lot of resistance that would probably benefit my running. And I know that's
Right.
it's a problem of mine.
Well, just think of the muscles you're working when you're running. Your core is going to be
It's like
activating.
from your sternum down.
Correct.
Yeah.
And generally with runners, it's very calf and quad dominant. Your
I do wall sits a lot.
Okay. So like, again, your quads are going to get work when you run. You get a lot of quad work. A lot of runners, I know when I met Patty, she was an avid runner, hamstrings, glutes, they don't get as much engagement because you're always pushing off with your quads when you're running, but nothing up top. If you're an avid runner, keep running. That's what you love to do. But I would throw a day or two in, maybe like pushing, pulling, a little pressing, whatever.
Okay.
You don't have to, get up there and try to be a bodybuilder or a power lifter, but you'll strengthen your upper body. You'll probably run a little better too.
Probably.
Just better biomechanics with your movements.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I know it would benefit me. I'm just stubborn. That's just the way but everyone's like that. Everyone has a thing that
Absolutely.
You like the runner's high.
Yeah. We could talk about that off the show, but like I just would rather go out and just hammer it out. But I also like running hills a lot. So that's my
good.
variation.
Just remember, as you age, you are losing muscle. So it's important if you are not doing that, to incorporate it sooner than later.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even consider myself of an older age yet, but from my mid-20s till now, like I've noticed
starts at age 35.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why I'm seeing it. But I notice like if I don't incorporate push-ups or just some body resistance stuff, like on my gym mat in my basement, like I notice that I feel different if it's been a couple of months and I was lazy doing that, and then I hammer out a long run and I'm like, something's not the same. But if I was doing that consistently for a few months, I do start to feel way different as far as like control and my just general mechanics while I'm doing the thing I love, which is running.
Right.
So it is. You can cheat it in the beginning. Like you were saying, younger people can get away with bad mechanics, but as I'm going through my years, I notice I have to do some other things.
When you're younger, you can exercise and your diet can be a little more diverse.
Forgiving.
Very forgiving. As you age, you cannot outwork a bad diet. And it is so important to incorporate that resistance training.
Okay. So
well said.
I got one more good question for you. Okay. This is a good podcast length too. I didn't, normally we have like 30, 40 minutes, but we're coming in an hour now.
We are yakking.
So I just want to go more on the business side of it real quick. You guys have been doing this for a while. You've seen a lot of changes in the fitness and health industry. Like, what do you think is, we'll do a good and bad right now. What do you think is a really positive trend you see right now in fitness, whether it's people that are coming to you asking about a certain thing, a new technique, a new diet, whatever it is. And then what's one thing that you see that you're kind of like, ugh,
Cringy.
like, I don't know if I would do that yet. Like, I just wait and see. So like a positive and a negative.
Yeah, I tell you what, obviously one of the things that is very prevalent that I see, and it's in training studios, it's in fitness centers, with a lot of the younger kids. I'm teens. And again, this is the good and bad. They're on their phone, right? They're following some influencer. It's not that you don't know the qualifications. You don't know how educated they actually are. Typically, most of that stuff is based on how someone looks. It's very physical, right? So I've always, any of the students that come in, just be cautious of kind of who you're following and what you're doing.
What you consume. Yeah.
Correct. Because there's so much info out there. On the other side, the good to that is a lot of the students are coming in, they have their workouts, right? So they're there, they're diligent, they're following somebody, they're doing something. And what my job is, they don't have to hire me this, but if I see them doing something wrong, I am the first one to correct it, because I don't want to getting hurt on my watch in my place, even if it's watching a video.
Right.
So that's kind of the good and bad. It just seems like the influencing is now so big.
Right. I love the fact that there's more access to
That's
fitness.
what I was going to say. The access to information is wild.
Right.
You just have to be disciplined enough to like consume it responsibly and kind of filter out.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. What are they saying? Are the influencers or the experts? Are they stating, going back to basics? Are they doing something kind of crazy? Brian will say, there's only so many ways that you're going to lift a dumbbell, right? So make sure that you're doing it correctly. And, that can be done. It's been done correctly for how many years? Or
Over 100 years.
Right.
Under 100
So
years.
that's the bad, is really differentiating the good influencers or the good experts, so to speak, from the bad.
And it's a difference of, and this is not just with health and fitness. This is like any niche,
that's
or
industry-wide,
hobby, whatever you're doing.
Right.
There's people who are doing it because they're like, this was helpful. I'm going to share this information to someone else that might be in that situation to help them.
Right.
That's great. They're providing knowledge for free or for very, very low entry of access to that information. Great. That's a huge win for the whole world.
Right.
But then there's the other side of it where it's like, I'm just doing this because I want to get a bunch of clicks, bunch of views, bunch of engagement, because I'm trying to sell something or whatever.
Somebody wants paid.
Yeah.
And in any industry, you can quickly see, like you can see that with the health industry and fitness industry. You're like, well, they're just doing it because they're taking advantage of a bunch of younger teenage kids and they just look good and that's why they're doing it, versus, no, this guy's actually giving some very good information.
Yeah. There's some great people, super knowledgeable people that I follow that are my age, some older, some younger. You have to be open to, there's new stuff out there. But again, when it really comes down to basics, I'm an in-person basic guy.
Yeah.
And you're never going to differentiate from that.
There's always new stuff.
Yeah.
But the core,
especially
is
with
the core.
like additions of like AI. Now you're going to see what workouts do you want to do? You start pushing some button and there's a computer guy working out. Is it correct? I'm going to guess probably is. They're pretty smart. But when you need an actual live person in person, I don't know, maybe AI is going to be doing that too. So I want to put my foot in my mouth.
I wouldn't worry about that. Watching someone live in the gym at your equipment, using your stuff, it's easier, I think, in the moment to correct them person to person.
Right.
I don't think you're going to have
There'll always be a need for that.
Maybe in 50 years you can play this back and I'll be wrong and there'll be a robot laughing in your gym. Like you're doing it wrong.
Six more.
But I think that's so far out that like my kids aren't going to have to worry about that. That's so far out. But it is interesting. So I was just wondering it's cool that you're seeing AI technology infiltrate like the health and fitness world too. Like it's not this doesn't need to go into be the AI podcast now, but we see it infiltrate obviously tech and marketing. Like
Oh my
it's
gosh.
everywhere, but it's starting to creep its way into everything now because people are realizing like, well, I can analyze my workouts with it, or I can analyze what I've been eating the last couple of weeks, and it'll spit out like a summary of what I should change with my diet or my exercise routine. Like,
I think it's a nice tool to add to what he and I already do,
yeah,
but it will never replace kind of that in person where we go, who we speak with.
yeah. People still want to talk to people,
Right.
So,
I remember right as the COVID and that was going, there was a couple of people that were in the industry saying that in-person training, it's all going to be Zoom. It's Zoom,
yeah.
right?
Which we had done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did that, but we couldn't wait to go back in, right? Get people back in, as most clients couldn't wait to get back in. And there was that initial, well, in-person gyms are going to die, in-person training is going to die. And I'm thinking, I'm going to say the complete opposite. People are going to be thriving to go live back in person, around people, get that vibe, get that community going. And I think we have a few thousand people that would agree with us.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, we're over an hour now. I appreciate, we could go on for days. I love this kind of stuff too, but I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on and sharing the story. And obviously you guys have success in just getting people comfortable. It sounds like just getting into a new routine, which is like, it's huge. You change the feeling that you guys must have for yourselves too. I know you don't do it for yourselves, but there is still something in your core, I'm sure, that excites you when you're like, yeah, like I saw a difference in that person, and that was that made my day great. So like, it's cool to hear how you're changing someone, even if it's small and they might not notice it, you see it. And I'm sure that's just a huge fuel to your fire.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on and sharing your stories.
Thank you so much for
Yeah, it was
having
wonderful.
us. It's a great convo.